Hello, welcome to Facebook Live with the Indivisible Team. You're actually looking at the world headquarters of Indivisible, and we're going to get kicked off talking a little bit about what happened today with TrumpCare, with the vote. And before we get started, though, I want to make a couple notes. One, we're going to be answering your questions live. So if you write into the comments section and say, hey, I'm Becky with Indivisible in Vermont or in Arizona, we're going to try to answer that question right in real time. We have some folks who are working to feed us those questions, and I'm looking at a screen right to the left here so we can read them off. But the second, before we get right into that, I want to celebrate the newest Indivisible group, which just registered today, of all days, which is great. They were probably motivated by the TrumpCare vote, and we love seeing that. It is Indivisible Texas 16, which is near and dear to my heart because it's in Texas, but this is in El Paso. Angel, do you want to put this on the dot?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Putting it in El Paso over here, and the good news is you've got some company. So, boom. Indivisible Texas 16, joining around 6,000 other Indivisible groups. We're excited to have you, and hopefully you're watching now or you can watch this later. But the goal of this really is to answer your questions, so we're not going to take up too much of your time right now, but just wanted to provide a little bit of overview. So today, it's going to be me. I'm Ezra Levin. I'm the Executive Director of Indivisible, and
I'm Leah Greenberg. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer with Indivisible.
Hi, and I'm Angel Padilla, Policy Director at Indivisible.
And so we all were some of the original co-authors of that Google Doc that went up about 5 months ago, and we've been really proud to be part of this project, along with a lot of people who you don't see on camera right now who have been helping out, including Luke on our team, who found that most recent Indivisible group that registered. So we're going to be here talking a little bit about what happened today, because it's a big deal. TrumpCare was passed by the House of Representatives, but this is not over. And in fact, we would really look at this as a big victory that we got this far. So the House of Representatives passed TrumpCare. That's a big deal. But the House of Representatives was promising to pass TrumpCare for months. The House has actually passed it in previous years literally dozens of times. The House and the Senate passed it, and President Obama had to veto the bill. So back in November and December, we work in D.C. The word on the street after the election was the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, it's dead. It's probably going to be dead literally on the first day of President Trump's presidency. The word that was that when Congress meets in January, on January 3rd, they're going to roll out a bill. It's going to be passed in a couple days. They've done this before. It was a goner. That's what everybody said. But that's not what happened. And that's not what happened because of you, Indivisible groups, and resistance groups like Move On and Planned Parenthood and Working Families Party and OFA, folks coming out in their home districts telling their members of Congress, no, do not vote for this bill. That's why something that should have taken days for the House majority to get done took 4 months and 1 day to get done. That is a huge victory. It's a huge victory, and it's because of the work you did. You can draw a direct line between the members of Congress who fell off of the bill originally last month and the work that you were doing on the ground. So I think it's very important to note, even though things are rough now, even though this is a terrible bill, and Angel's going to talk to us a little bit about how terrible it is, that this is, the fact that we made it this long is a testament to your power. Now, I mentioned briefly, and I'll just say, that there are 5 steps on the road to this becoming law. The first easiest step was this passing the House. Yes, they accomplished that. Bravo. That was the easiest step. Next, it's got to go to the Senate, and the Senate has to figure out what they're going to do. Nobody likes this bill in the Senate, and it's really tough to get it through. After that, there's got to be a conference, and that's what a conference is when the House and the Senate come together and they figure out how they're going to hammer out their differences. After that conference, then there's another House vote and another Senate vote. Each of those steps is more difficult. So, yeah, we lost today. TrumpCare was passed to the House today, not the end of the road, and what worked to delay this for 4 months is what's going to work to defeat it finally, and that's you getting involved on your home turf. So I'm going to shut up for a sec. We're going to hear from, I think, Angel, who's going to talk a little bit about what exactly is in this TrumpCare bill.
Yeah, and just one other point I want to make on where we are today. Back in January, I think everyone was just focused on the Senate, and that's where the fight was going to be, and the fact that we had this fight in the House is a big deal, and that's because of all the groups all over the country that were going down to town halls, they were going down to district offices, and they were telling their members of Congress that they did not want this vote. So this is a huge deal that we're here today. So it's a setback, but it's not. I don't consider it a loss. We should all be proud of the work that we've been doing.
Can I note, as you're talking, put in your questions, like I mentioned before, questions in the comment section. We're going to be answering them right after Leah, Angel, and I are done talking. Go ahead.
Great. So we all know the big sort of talking points about how this bill is bad. It's a horrible, horrible bill. I mean, basically, right now, people are celebrating the fact that they're closer to taking away health care from 24 million people. We were on the House when the ACA was first passed in 2010, and we celebrated, but we celebrated because we were closer, because we got people health care. Millions of people were going to get health care. This is the opposite. People are celebrating the fact that they're going to take away, that they're closer to taking away health care from 24 million people. So what does that really mean? What else is in the bill? We don't know everything because there is no CBO score. We don't know exactly what the full implications of this bill are going to be because they rammed this bill through Congress, through the House, without getting a score. So we don't know how this is going to impact coverage. We don't know how this is going to impact the economy. And they did this on purpose because they knew that if they didn't get this through this way, in this very undemocratic process, they were never going to get it through at all. But there are a few things that we do know. So, for example, we know that, again, 24 million people lose their coverage as a result of this bill. We know that that amounts to basically between 22 and 44,000 people a year that are going to die. I'm serious. This 22 to 44,000 people a year that are going to die because if this bill becomes law for lack of insurance. We know that the bill defunds Planned Parenthood. We know that it means $1,500 more on average per family in deductibles. We know that it allows states, it provides this giant loophole for insurance companies to charge more people if they have a pre-existing condition. And you know what? There are 130 million people in this country with a pre-existing condition. So there are a lot of people who could see a lot more higher premiums because of this bill.
That includes things like allergies.
Yeah, asthma. I mean, how many? I know people with asthma, and they could be charged more because of this bill. If this bill becomes law, it's anything. Any pre-existing condition can result in higher premiums. And I know people that have had cancer. And if this bill provides a loophole where insurance companies can provide something like $100,000 a year in premiums. So this argument that Republicans are making that they have that covered, that they provide money for people who have pre-existing conditions to make sure that they don't have to pay more, is a complete lie. $100,000 in premiums for certain people with pre-existing conditions. So this is serious. This is people's lives, and this is just a few of the very, very terrible things that are in this bill. And if you go to our website, we have the top 10 bad things in this bill. So indivisibleguide.com.
It's hard to choose.
There were a lot of things. One of the things in there is they take away money for for kids, for special education. No one is exempt from this, right? It goes after poor people. It restructures Medicaid and makes sure it also goes after kids. It also goes after women. Women will have to pay more for certain services. So everyone would be made worse by this bill. So this is super serious.
Except the super wealthy.
Except them. Then
so
you get a tax break.
If you're super wealthy, congratulations on your big victory.
You could get $700 billion in tax breaks out of this if this becomes law. So. Yep.
So again, if you want to ask questions, just post them right in the comment section. Say you're whoever you are from whatever Indivisible group, or if you're just you, that's great too. And I want to note we started right after Bob Reich, Secretary Reich, and he gave us a nice plug, which was really nice. And we're sandwiched between him and Rachel Maddow. We didn't want to cut into Rachel Maddow's time, so we're going to try to stop right at 9 so y'all can switch over to her too after this. But Leah, take us away with how people can actually push forward.
So the top thing that we know is that this bill is going to the Senate. Every single Republican senator is going to have to make a decision on what to do now. And one of the things that they're going to be watching, one of the top things that they're going to be watching is what happens to the Republican representatives who voted for TrumpCare today. And that's why the next 11 days are so, so important. So Congress is about to go on recess. They'll be back home in your district for the next 11 days, and it is critical that they hear from you about exactly how angry you are that they have sold you out. So that means a couple of different things. First of all, it's a little bit tougher for us right now because so many Republican representatives are hiding. They know that their constituents are angry with them, and so they are doing their best to avoid any public interactions that they can. We know that about
today?
It starts today?
Congressional recess, literally today.
It does. Right, and so they'll be home in their districts. And what we know is that only 5 Republican representatives are scheduled to host town halls. So for the rest of you who have a Republican representative, you're going to have to get creative to get your message out. We've got a brand new toolkit. If you go to our website, we've got you covered with information on exactly how bad this TrumpCare bill is. And we also have some new tactics for when your member of Congress is hiding. First and foremost is host a die-in. This is a tactic for showing people, dramatizing the real effect that their vote will have. Basically, it consists of going to one of their district offices and lying down. Get a group together, you lie down, and you say, we're here representing the people who will die if you go forward with this bill. This is a really powerful tactic for getting local media attention and just for helping people understand what they've actually done. We've got more. If you go to the website, you can check out all of the different resources that we have for different ways to get media attention if your member of Congress is missing. And we'll be answering your questions about this shortly too.
That's great. Thanks, Leah. So we are going to jump, I think, right into questions, which is great. And the screen is going to get brighter now. And now we can read the questions. So the first question comes from Helen in Florida. Again, if you want to ask questions, just put it in the comments of the Facebook Live. We'll try to get to them. So Helen from Florida has a very simple question, which I love. What is next? I'll kick back to Leah and Angel.
I'd say what's next is massive resistance. It's
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
It's time to let people know exactly how bad a decision they just made. Look, Republicans voted on this bill without a score from the Congressional Budget Office, without understanding, without reading it in many cases. They don't know what's in it. They need to be hearing from you. You need to be asking them exactly what they voted for. They've been trying to avoid answering questions on this all day. They need to be answering questions on this every day for the rest of their careers.
Yeah, and so, you may have, there are a lot of Republicans out there that are claiming that they passed repeal and replace. This is not repeal and replace. This is anything but repeal and replace. This is, first of all, it's nothing. Obamacare is still the law of the land. Let's remember that. But also, this is a repeal. It would dismantle the ACA, but it does not provide the same level of coverage as the ACA. So you're going to see higher costs. You're going to see people getting, getting lifetime limits for services if this would ever become law. So this is not repeal and replace. And most importantly, this isn't over. So we have to keep up the pressure to make sure that this never becomes law.
Yeah, and but can I just emphasize that this is not over. We have not lost. The Affordable Care Act is the law of the land. We now have 11 days of recess, and we know that all of 5 Republicans nationwide have scheduled town halls. You know what they haven't failed to schedule? Fundraisers. They're going back to their home districts to raise money right after they voted to take away your health insurance. This is the time to tell them that is unacceptable, that you are not in favor of this action that they took, and they're going to take that message, and the next time it comes up, it's going to change their political calculus, and the Senate is going to be watching, as Leah said earlier, the Senate's going to be watching and seeing this reaction. That's going to affect their political calculus. So these next 11 days actually really are crucial. This is a great time to make your voice heard. Anything else on that? Cool. So I'll just keep on pitching.
Yeah.
Mark from Nebraska wants to know why Trump keeps saying repeal has happened. Is this thing over? How does the process work? Oh, okay. Well, great. Yeah.
So Trump probably keeps saying repeal has happened because he's not very smart. He does not understand how a lot of things work. He just wants to slap his name on a bill and call it a day. That's why he's saying it. I'm going to turn it over to Ezra to talk about how the process actually works.
So I mentioned this, and that I would co-sponsor that statement that Leah made. Good political analysis there. So the way this works is not simple because it's Congress, and that's by design. So one of the key things that Angel, as policy director, does is demystify Congress for everybody, and we have a team doing that. But the process by which this bill could become law is 5 steps. They just did the first step, like I said, the easy step of passing in the House. The next step is the Senate now has to pass a bill. Now, what we think is going to happen is the Senate is going to say, we don't like a lot of this stuff. We're going to write our own bill. And they'll write their own bill, and a lot of the folks in the House aren't going to like that. So then there's a conference, and the conference is where the senators send some people from their side, the House sends some people on their side, and they say, hey, we want to hurt poor people this way, and the House says, hey, we want to hurt middle-class people this way, and then they figure out exactly what kind of damage they want to do to you. They figure out that bill, and then they send it back to the House for a vote, and they send it back to the Senate for a vote. So we are early in this process. The very easiest thing to do was to pass a bill to the House. It took them 4 months. So now we're fighting these next 4 steps. Angel, is there anything else you want to say about the process?
No, that's the process, and it's going to be a tough battle for them. And the more you keep pressure on your members, the more effective we're going to be at stopping this in the long term. The one thing I would say about the question about why Trump keeps trying to say that he's repealed the ACA is because he wants to take credit for this. He wants to claim victory when there's no victory to claim on this. Like, we should be claiming victory because it's May and they couldn't get this done. It stalled in the House where this is supposed to breeze right through. So we have to make sure that we control the narrative here. We are the ones who are pushing back, and if Trump wants to claim victory, it's false. He had nothing to do with it. He does not know what he's doing. So we got to keep that in mind.
Right. Excellent. Again, if you want to ask questions, just put them in the comments section and tell us where you're from. We'll try to get to them fast. We have Justine. We don't know where Justine is from, but we'll guess Justine's from New Mexico, I'm going to say. Justine, will there ever be a CBO score on this? And CBO is a Congressional Budget Office, for folks who are less educated than Justine from New Mexico. The Congressional Budget Office, or will the Congressional Budget Office hold off until the final bill?
That's a great question. So the Congressional Budget Office is probably going to release a score of the bill that House Republicans voted on next week. And that is perfectly timed for you to go ask them why the heck they were voting on a bill that they didn't even know the impact of.
Such polite language. Mm-hmm. And do we know what the Congressional Budget Office is probably going to come out with, or what it came out with last time, Angela? You've got some.
Yeah, so again, the only score we have, the only analysis that we have from the Congressional Budget Office is from the base bill, which is, it was changed in order to get it through the House. But we know that some of the things have not changed. Those things are 24 million people are going to lose coverage because of this bill. That has not changed. It's going to mean a big, huge tax break for the wealthy. It's going to mean that some states are going to have, Medicaid is going to get dismantled, and so there's going to be less federal money for Medicaid, meaning that some states are going to have to start rationing care, meaning that some people who have Medicaid now, who are eligible for Medicaid, won't be able to get it if this bill becomes law. That's what we know. We don't know the full implications because there is no score for the entire bill that was passed with the other amendments. But something to keep in mind, these amendments were offered to make the bill worse, to make it more conservative. So all of the things that we know of this bill being, all the horrible things that we know, it's worse because that's what they needed to do to pass the bill.
And so just note, they rushed it through before the CBO score on purpose. Yeah. They rushed it through because they were scared of the CBO score. So when we get this new CBO score, you're going to see a lot of Republicans saying, I don't really like that. And they're going to run away from it. So this is an opportunity soon when it comes out. We're going to see it soon. Next question. Yeah? Oh,
sure.
You go for it. Yeah, please.
So Verena from New York says, I have 2 senators who are fighting for us. How do we influence members of Congress outside of our state?
Sure. This is one of the questions that we get a lot, and the answer to this is you have to focus on your members, right? You have 1 representative and 2 senators, and those are the ones that you need to focus on because they're the ones who care about your vote. They're the ones who are going to listen. And if you focus your attention another place to another senator, another member, they don't care what you think, and that's unfortunate. But that's their job. Their job is to focus on their constituents, and so the way that you can be most effective is to keep talking and keep pressuring your 3 members of Congress.
And I would just note, you said 3 members of Congress. That's right. So you asked about senators. Senate is where this bill is going next, and you want to talk to your senators, don't get me wrong. But right now, during this recess, you should really start with, how did your member of Congress vote? If they voted against the bill, that's great. Even if they're a Republican, call them. Say, thank you for voting against TrumpCare. If they're a Democrat, say, thank you for voting against TrumpCare. Every single Democrat did vote against TrumpCare. And if they voted the wrong way on this, tell them that too. So both your House of Representatives, your single representative, and then your 2 senators. Again, anything else?
That's great.
Andrew, you want to take a whack at the next one?
Are reading it up? Can't really read
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Technical difficulty. Okay, we're golden. Okay.
All right. Natalie asks, how do we stay motivated? What can we do? I'm feeling so disheartened.
It's huge.
It's a tough question. Honestly, we've known from all along that this was going to be a hard fight and that we were going to lose some of the battles along the way. But I think the thing that we really have to remember is how far we've come and be proud of the gains that we've had so far. We know that we never expected to come this far, this fast. We never expected that we would make it to May before they even had a bill that they'd passed out of the House. This is a big deal, and you should be so proud of yourself for all of the work that you've put in so far.
And can I add to that? So one of the things that we're really proud about at Indivisible are these 6,000 dots behind us. And it's because we really view the unit of activism as being not the individual, but the group. And that's because groups form community, groups sustain each other, groups build leadership and power together. So I would recommend if you're doing this on your own, more power to you. That is tough work, but in an ideal world, you're doing this with a group, and you can find a local Indivisible group or another resistance group in your community and join up. Start meeting with people. That's how you're going to sustain this. And if you want Indivisible, you can go to indivisibleguide.com, put in your zip code, and find a local group, but just find the one that works for you. That's the bottom line. Find friends who are in this with you together. That's how we're going to really keep this going for the long term. I can ask this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Trevor asks if this bill is subject to the filibuster in the Senate.
I can take that one. So the only way that Republicans can, have any chance of getting this bill through is using this really sort of weird process called reconciliation. And if you've never heard of reconciliation, that's fine. It's super no one knows what reconciliation is. But we have a resource on our website that explains what reconciliation is. But the bottom line is it allows members of Congress to pass a bill, a budget bill, bills related to the budget that require fewer votes. So normally legislation usually has a 60 vote threshold, but through reconciliation you can pass it with a simple majority, which means 50 plus votes. And so in the House, in the Senate, they can pass this bill with 51 votes. The thing is that the bill that we got out of the House today, there are a lot of questions about whether or not that bill meets the rules of the Senate. There are very strict rules about what bills can get through using reconciliation, and it's not clear that this bill meets those requirements. So there are a lot of questions left in this bill, but the point is that it's very difficult to get a bill out of the Senate, and there is no filibuster for this. They can get it through with 51 votes, but it's going to be hard for them to do, and that's why we have to make sure that we keep talking to our members to make sure that it doesn't get through.
Great.
Billy from Massachusetts asks, what's the best way to support the Indivisible Guide?
I'm happy to take a whack at this, and thanks for the plug, Billy. So I actually say the number one thing you can do to support the Indivisible movement is get involved locally. That's what this movement is made up of. We're incredibly proud to be part of this at the national level, but our role is pretty narrow, trying to support the local leadership on the ground. So if you want to support the movement, the answer is get involved locally. Now, I would be remiss to say the reason why we're able to do all of this is because largely through donations, small donations from folks on the ground. Our average donation, and we've had over 20,000 individual donations, is less than $45, which is awesome. We got a really great note from Nebraska the other day with, I think, a $22 donation, which is great. That's what's fueling us. That's what's allowing us to come to you live. So number one, get involved in your local community. If you happen to have the capacity to do it, we would love you to go to indivisibleguide.com, click donate, throw us a few bucks, and we're going to keep this going. So thank you for the question. Oh, I can ask it. Oh, sure. Laura Samuels, what should we be focusing on doing right now? I live in Massachusetts, where our senators are committed to stopping this law.
Sure, I can start this off. Right now, we are starting recess, and we just had a vote today in the House, and the most important thing that you should be doing is making sure that your House representative hears from you. We need to hold members accountable. They passed a bill today that would strip access to health care to 24 million people. It's going to raise costs. It's going to hurt families. It's going to hurt poor people. It's going to hurt children. And members of Congress need to hear from you. So right now, over this recess, get together with your Indivisible group and make sure that your representative hears from you and knows how you feel about how they voted. If they voted for TrumpCare, then make sure that they know that you're angry and you're going to remember this. If they voted against it, thank them. This is very important. We need to make sure that our representatives are being courageous when they're faced with pressure from the administration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would go ahead. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. So just to build on that too, so when it comes up in the Senate, we got the question about a filibuster earlier. There could be an opportunity to do a lot of good in the Senate. So you got two great senators. That's phenomenal. What are they going to do to stop this? Ask them that question. Now, I agree, you've got great senators. Walk with them through the plan. How are they, once it comes to a floor, how are they going to prevent this from actually becoming law? They need your support. They need to know that you desperately want them to end this bill. They're going to be super courageous, like Angel said, if you make that clear to them.
Marcia from New York asks, is there a way to slow down the process so Americans have a chance to learn more about what's in the bill?
It's great that you want to know more about what's in the bill, because a lot of members of Congress today did not care what was in the bill. With less than 24 hours, a lot of them had not read the bill. What's good is that over the next few days, we are going to get more information. The Congressional Budget Office is going to release a report about how this bill is going to hurt families and the middle class and poor people, working people, and so we'll know more. And there's going to be a ton of analysis. And we have resources on our website about what is actually in the bill. We have a bunch of partners that have more information, and we work really closely with Families USA and Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. So there are ways to learn more. When it goes to the Senate, it's going to undergo a ton of other changes, and so we're going to have to sort of adjust based on what happens. But just to build on Ezra's point, those changes, if we want to make this bill, if we want to kill this bill, which we want to kill this bill, but I mean, we need to make sure that our senators and our members of Congress really understand how important this is. And we've heard these in town halls. I mean, for the last 4 months, we've heard people go up to town halls, get in front of a microphone, and tell their stories about how they would be harmed by this bill. That needs to continue, and there's another week coming up to do that.
I'll just add, you don't normally see legislation move this fast. The original Affordable Care Act, it took 6 months, a year. It took a year from beginning of discussions to actual passage of a bill. And that's because, in general, legislators, a lot of them take their job seriously. They want to pass good legislation. They want to hear from everyone. They want to understand the full consequences of what they're doing. And it's our job right now to ask why so many Republicans did not do that in this case.
I mean, we can use the rules of the Senate against it, too, because the Senate moves slow by nature. Exactly. And so if you've got advocates in the Senate, you can slow this down. And again, we're headed into 11 days of recess. Nothing's happening for 11 days except your members of Congress are back home. So at least for the next 11 days, we can be digesting this. We can be sending the message to everyone nationwide and in our own communities that this is unacceptable.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is chances are, again, some of these members that voted for this bill don't know what's in the bill, so maybe you need to educate them on what's in that bill and how it'll affect you.
That's exactly.
And sorry, we're just bouncing back and forth, but how it affects you, we haven't brought this up yet, and I think it's super important. One of the great things we saw in the last town halls is stories. Your power as a constituent is that you are individually impacted. Your family is impacted. I loved seeing, because I'm from Texas, I loved seeing Arkansas town halls with people with thick Southern accents down in Arkansas saying, "Hey, I'm going to be bankrupt, or I'm going to be dead without the Affordable Care Act." You are impacted by this bill. If you are basically anyone in America who isn't an incredibly rich person or a corporation, you're going to be negatively impacted by this. So you have a story to tell, and that's important. So to Angel's point, I just drive home that point, that you should go and let them know. And we're getting the 1 minute sign, so I'll try to shut up, and we'll get through a couple more maybe.
Great. All right. Libeth asks, how should we approach a town hall meeting this weekend?
Oh, well, that was Marcia that asked that, but we'll get to Libeth. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, what should we do?
Any thoughts? Okay, I've got some thoughts. So, a town hall meeting, so as we said earlier, there are only 5 Republicans who have scheduled town halls so far. There are 5. There are hundreds of Republicans, and only 5 of them have actually scheduled town halls. That doesn't mean you're powerless. They don't hold all the power here. You can actually schedule your own town hall. We have a guide on the website on how to do a constituent-led town hall, what to do if your member of Congress is hiding from you. This is great. We've seen people bring live chickens on stage to represent their members of Congress, or bring cardboard cutouts or empty chairs. This is how you get news and attention and put pressure on your member of Congress, even if they're not willing to do it. Now, if you do have a town hall, if you're one of the lucky ones who has a town hall, the die-in, it seems like kind of a bizarre tactic, but it's been really effective. The die-in is where you come ready to represent the number of people who are going to be literally killed if TrumpCare becomes law. So you come, and we have I think a 2-page guide or a few-page guide on how to exactly do this, and it's been done in other parts of the country. You go to the town hall, bring a lot of your friends, a couple dozen, and then plan a time to initiate the die-in. You're going to get a lot of attention for that. Any other ideas?
No, just one other thing. So you're a member of Congress, you might have one that doesn't want to have a town hall. That's unacceptable, especially if they voted for TrumpCare. They need to justify their vote to you. They just voted to take away health care from your community. So it's unacceptable. Don't let them get away without explaining why they would take such a vote. So this is super important. Make sure that you go out there and you make them tell you why they did that.
LaBeth, now LaBeth is up.
Oh,
I think we might be out
Last
of
question.
time.
Oh, we're out of time. LaBeth, we're going to get back to you. Go watch Rachel Maddow, everybody. She is on right now. We don't want to cut into that. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Let me just say, we are in awe of the power that you've demonstrated over these past 4 months. We are certain that this is the only thing that will work to defeat this bill, and we're just here to help. We're here to
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.